So for the bag, we need the back and the front. The measurement is 15 by 19 inches. The lining is the same measurement. Now the side pieces, we need two side pieces, 15 inch by 5 inches. We need the base, 19 inches by 5 inches wide. And the interfacing, I've ironed on the interfacing already. You can use wadding if you wish to give the bag a sturdier feel. And that brown piece there is the lining. Now we are going to have an inside pocket. It's about 16 inches long by 7.5 inches wide. We're going to stitch down the sides because I'm going to be doubling the material. That's why it's 16 inches, because I'm going to be turning it into half. And that is how I'm going to be attaching it. So put those away. Now these are the panel for the zipper. We need 4 pieces, two for the two main pieces and 2 pieces for the lining. The zipper is about 20 inches long. It's longer than the bag itself. Now there's going to be a zippered pocket which is going to be attached to the front of the bag. Now this piece of the pocket here must be about 2 inches longer than the zipper. It's about 16 inches in length, that pocket piece. So these are the straps, about 25 inches by 4 inches wide. And this here is the elasticated pocket. When you attach it to the bag, you can carry your flask there. So this is the side piece, and this is how we are going to attach it to the side piece, like so. Now I'm showing you now how I'm going to make the pocket the zippered pocket. If you notice, there's a rectangle and there's a line, a center line between in the middle of the rectangle. That middle line there is where you're going to cut it. So the width of this rectangle is about 1/2 inch. Now I've stitched it around the rectangle. Now I'm then cutting it now in the middle of that middle line. Now be careful not to cut beyond that border line there, or else you'll be in trouble. Don't cut beyond that the stitch where it's bordering the rectangle. Don't cut beyond it. Be very careful. Now see the triangle at that end, there at the both ends. So careful not to cut beyond it. You take your time and cut it and get that little piece there up, like so. So I've cut it all the way down. Now after cutting, I'm going to be pushing that pocket piece through that opening. Okay, I'm taking it back through because I pushed it through before. So I've taken it back through now. I'm going to do it again. So push it through the opening. Just finger press it, or you can use the iron to press it out so it be flat. So that there is a slider. Make sure the slider is turned towards the right side of the bag. So it's turned up towards you. So the rectangle there is to accommodate the length of the zip. Now you're going to stitch along there. You can pin it first, or if you have glue, you can glue down the zipper onto the bag, and then you can stitch. But I'm pinning mine, and then I'm going to be stitching on both sides of the zip. When you finish stitching, this part here is going to be turned up to complete the pocket. See the neat finish there. So I'm turning it up now, and then I'm going to be pinning it, and then I'm going to be stitching it. So just stitch along there. And that should complete the pocket. Now this now is the lining, and there's going to be an inside pocket. Now this inside pocket is about 16 inches long by about 7.5 inches wide. Now you're going to attach it about 3 or 4 inches from the top. So the line there is where I want it to rest, right there. The 16 inches because I have doubled it. So I'm just going to be folding the material into half, and then I'm going to be stitching the two sides. Just taking off a little bit that's not wanted. So that's where it's going to lie. Now this is how I'm going to be stitching it now. So this is how I'm going to be setting it. So that open part there is going to be at the bottom. I'm going to be stitching across it, and then I'm going to be flipping it up and stitching the two sides. And there is the pocket. Now this is the lining. I've gone ahead and stitched on the base of the lining on one side. You do not have to do this first. You can actually stitch on the zip panels first. So that's the side. Now there's a little technique that you need to know in order for you to stitch the corners. So if you notice, I've gone past the seam, a little bit past the seam on both ends. So I've gone past the seam, and I'm going to give that end bit there a little twist in order for me to stitch on the side with ease. So after that, now you can actually stitch up all the way up, and you do that for all 4 corners. Now at this stage, now you can actually iron to flatten out the seams. Now this is a tab. I'm going to be using it at the end of the zipper. Okay, it's just a piece of material, a little like a rectangle. You're gonna stitch the end, the 2 ends. You're gonna just turn up 2 times and stitch both ends, and then you're going to stitch the 2 sides and then just flip it over. Just getting my pen to help me to turn it over. So now I've stitched across the end of the zipper just to keep it in place while I'm putting that part through or inside the little rectangle there or to the tab. Trying to flatten it out inside. It seems a little bit tiny, but I've got to work with it. I'm going to stitch across there, down, across, and up again. It's like a little box I'm putting the zipper end in. I'm going to be doing that for both ends of the zipper. And this is what it should look like when I'm finished. Now I'm going to be attaching now the zip panel to the zip. That's the lining piece here. And now make sure that the slider is face down on the main piece. Okay, it's facing the right side of the panel. Remember that the zipper is longer than the piece of material, so you're going to have a bit hanging over at both ends. Then you're going to place now the lining part on top of that. So they're going to be joined together. Now after pinning and stitching, this is what it should look like. Okay, stitch there. Notice that the ends are turned under and stitched as well. So this is the second piece now I'm going to be putting on the next side of the zipper. Make sure it's aligned properly. Okay. And that's the lining part. So the zipper is enclosed. It's sandwiched inside both pieces of material. You can either base it down here or you can pin it down before you stitch, whichever one you find easier to do. So the width of these zipper panels about 2.5 inches wide. Just forgot to say that. Now I'm going to just press it down now, just to flatten out. Okay, so now that that is done, what we're going to be doing now is I'm going to be taking that two middle pieces. I'm going to be rolling them together like so, and those other two pieces I'm going to be enclosing that part there inside, because I'm going to be stitching along the edge of these two pieces. So make sure that part there is tucked under properly, and you will see why in a few minutes. So tucking those two pieces under and then stitching on the outside. I'm stitching all the way down, and afterwards I'm going to be turning it over. So I'm now flipping it over. So taking my time to pull it through. So I've pulled it straight through, and this is what it should look like after it's come through. See the neat finish? Okay. And this part here is going to be attached to the lining. So this is the lining part of the bag, and then we're gonna stitch it onto the lining. But so it has this neat finish already, so when it's going to be stitched on now, it will be neat. No raw edges. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the other side now. I'm going to be doing the same thing. Roll that part there that we've just stitched, roll it, and then those two parts, right side facing right side, pinning and stitching. Just tuck it under. See, just stitch it all the way down, and then pull it through now. Okay, so I've put that piece aside for now, and this now is the lining. I'm showing you now how to join the corners together. So joining the side piece onto the lining. This is a little technique that you need to know. So stitch from that end to that end. Then notice that a little piece at the end is over the seam. Alright, so we're not going to stop at the seam. We're going to just take the end across over the seam. So look again, we stitch from there to there, and that little piece there is lapped over at the end. We give it a little twist to enable us to stitch the side piece onto the lining. And we do this for all 4 corners. That's what it should look like. Okay, so I've left out an opening there about maybe 4 inches wide to enable me to twist the bag over, or to turn the bag over when it's finished. Now back to the zip panel now. So this is what we've done before. See the zip in the middle and the 2 panel pieces on either side. Now this is the lining. We're going to now turn the lining to the right side. So right side lining, and the panel itself is the wrong side, and that is how we are going to stitch it on. So wrong side panel is now going to be stitched onto the right side of the lining. So I'm going to do it on both sides. So from the top of the lining, about 2.5 inches down, is where you're going to attach this panel. So that there is sitting inside of the lining. Now we're going to do the stitch near to the edge. So it's sitting right inside the lining. Now these are the straps. Now the strap is about 25 inches long by 4 inches wide. I go to the center and I ironed it all the way down. I just flip over the two edges towards the center and I ironed it again. Then I just turn the two sides on top of each other and then ironed it again. This is how it should look when we are done. So stitch on both sides. So now I'm going to be attaching the straps to the bag. I'm just lining it up properly so that it they're both in the middle of the bag, or of this the main panel here. So I'm just marking where the strap should be. So I'm going to use a zipper where the zipper is as the mark. The zipper is already centered in the middle of the bag, or in the middle of the panel. So I'm just going to pin it exactly above the zipper. So I'm going to do the other side now. So I'm attaching it where I've made that mark. Then I'm going to stitch them across at the top. Okay, now this is the elasticated pocket. The bottom is about 5 inches at the bottom. It's about 9 inches by 5 inches, the measurement. The top part is about 8 inches wide. That is to accommodate the elastic, and also the flask. I'm just running the elastic through, and I'm going to be stitching along there to keep it intact. I don't want to run through. Just pinning it there, and I'm going to be stitching those two ends. Okay, so it's stitched now. Now this is how I'm going to be attaching now to the side. So this here is the side panel, and this is how I'm going to be attaching it. Okay, so now I'm attaching the side panels to the front of the bag. So we're going to use the same technique for attaching the corners. So now I'm attaching the base. Give it a little twist and then stitch it all the way up. Doing it again. Okay, this is the base stitch on now, and the sides are stitched on. So I'm just turning the bag over now, almost there now. You can now iron the seams to flatten everything out. Almost there. Now this is the lining. I've inserted the main bag inside the lining, right side facing right side. The straps are tucked in. Now I'm going to be matching seam to seam, and then I'm going to be pinning it. Before I stitch, you're going to use about 3/8 of an inch stitching allowance to stitch all the way around it. Okay, all the way around, one stitch straight around. I've done that. Now I'm going to be now using this opening that we've left to turn the bag over. Just flip it over. There, it's done. Now I'm just going to close off this gap that we've left out. Okay, I've closed the gap. So now I'm going to be now doing a top stitch at the top of the bag. So I'm just using my fingers to press out the seam at the top, and then I'm stitching it. I'm going to pin it before I stitch around it. Now it's done. See, there's a pocket there in place. There's the other pocket. Just testing. The flask can go in without falling out because the elastic will hold it together, or will hold it inside the pocket. And there's the bag. See you in my next one.